Hi, I'm Persephone, but my friends call me Percy, so you can too. How's it going? Is anyone else just loving how it gets dark at 4 p.m.? No one? Just me? That's okay, because I like it enough for the both of us. I like that it's dark. Welcome back to Book and Cook. How's it going? Today, we are talking about the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which I forgot to grab. Can you go grab it? They would like to have help, ladies and gentlemen. But today we're talking about the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, book 2 in the Dream Harbor series. Last time, we read book 1, which was the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, while making a pumpkin spice latte from scratch. It was a fun time, albeit a chaotic time. Cinnamon Bun Bookstore! It was a fun time, albeit a chaotic time, since I had no idea what I was doing. But I loved the book, I loved talking about it, and I ended up with a decent pumpkin spice syrup that I finished within 2 days. So I'm counting that as a success. And you should too. Now, you don't need to watch that video first to watch this one. Don't worry, you can watch it after. It'll be linked everywhere. Anything can be linked. Don't worry. But today, we're talking about the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore while making cinnamon buns from the can. Yeah, fuck it, I'm not making it from scratch. It's cold. I hurt. I have chronic illness. It's a chronic illness. And I really want cinnamon rolls. But every recipe I found, it took 4 hours, and I don't have 4 hours to do this. I cannot stand for that long. You get 2 hours out of me, max. So, a can it is. But today we are doing a hack that I found on Instagram, which I will talk you through. And if it is good, I will link the video down below. If not, completely disregard. But fingers crossed. Okay, so for this, we're going to use 2 Pillsbury Grand, if you want to be fancy, cinnamon rolls. Cinnabon! I have 1. I have 2. We also have heavy whipping cream. Don't put that on the book. Gonna scooch this out of the way for a second. I have a bowl. I have 2 sticks of butter. I have 2 sticks. Oh, this is the fancy thing. This will make me want to try it. Kerrygold, cinnamon, and sugar. I can't tell if you can see that. I hope you can. Cinnamon and sugar, butter. Am I going to use all of this butter? I hope not, because I don't want to die by the time I'm 30. But it's the holidays, so we'll see what happens. That is the preheated oven. So that means that I need to get a move on. I really hope that this works. I hope that you appreciated the red spoon, because Christmas, which means we gotta get going. So, Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. The back reads, a small town spicy romance. When a secret message turns up hidden in a book in the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, Hazel can't understand it. As more secret codes appear between the pages, she decides to follow the trail of clues. She just needs someone to help her out. Gorgeous and outgoing fisherman Noah is always up for an adventure. The scavenger hunt sounds like a lot. Gorgeous and outgoing fisherman Noah is always up for an adventure, and a scavenger hunt sounds like a lot of fun. Even better than the cute bookseller he's been crushing on for months. Oh my god, what? Even better that the cute bookseller he's been crushing on for months is the one who wants his help. Hazel didn't go looking for a romance, but as the treasure hunt leads her and Noah around Dream Harbor, their undeniable chemistry might be just as hot as the fresh out of the oven cinnamon buns the bookstore sells. I'm going to be so for real with you. The entire book is written like that, and the first time around I thought it was charming in a way, because it was what you see is what you got exactly on the tin. I know I said that last time. This time, it was a little bit fucking grating. And this time I think it was more grating because I read the physical book versus doing an audiobook, which means I could see it, which means I could see the ands, and because, and then, and because, and it drove me crazy. Oh my god. It's fine. All that being said, I said this before and I'll say it again, things don't need to be good to be great. And I do think that this is great in the sense that it is a fun, easy read that you can like pound through in an afternoon and you will enjoy it. It has enough emotional meat to it where it is still satisfying to read to an extent. And I do have my complaints, and we'll get to them as they come up, okay? But I still had fun reading this book. And so while this book is technically on a very basic writing level, I'll never fault it. Starting sentences with and because has started to become more widely accepted, not in academic papers. Never in academic papers. Because it's not correct, okay? But in a book, I won't fault it. It's fine. And normally a book of this writing caliber I would not find worth talking about, personally. It's something I read, I add to the pile, and I keep going. But then it does something where it says something, and I'm invested. And I can't put it perfectly into words, but it compels me. And so here we are. And as for the story crafting, I know I said that this one is better constructed than the last one. That excites me because I love seeing an author get better from book to book. If you're an aspiring author, the best way to get good at writing is just write a fucking lot. Just write a lot and get as much things on paper, and you will just continue to improve. When I wrote Found Adrift, I was a different author from beginning to end. And then the editing process happens, and that's why editing is so important, to get everything out to begin with, right? So let's get into it. I have to open this. How do I open this? And I need to hurry because the oven is going. And today I have an assistant. Love, will you do this for me? Thank you. 1 and 1. The joys of having an assistant is my partner, who's behind the camera, is going to melt the butter for us. We're doing 1 stick of the cinnamon, the special cinnamon, special holiday butter, and then, yeah, 1 of each. 1 stick, 1 stick. Cool. I know how to talk. I know how to read. How do I do this? It says to use a spoon. I expected that to be so much harder. Okay. Well, I just stuck my thumb in that. That's fine. How do I? Okay. We start off the story with Hazel Kelly sitting in the Cinnamon Bun bookstore on a late summer afternoon, reminiscing about her life so far has been lackluster. If you want to say it nicely, boring if you want to say it correctly. And from the jump, I felt very attacked and called out by my full government name, but that's okay, I guess. How are you? I did it. I'm a genius. I promise I washed my hands. Yeah, is it good? Yeah, it's cool looking. Look at that. That slaps. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Maybe I will die before I'm 30. It's fine. But I actually need to jump in to make a correction here. In the last video, I said that Hazel Kelly owned the bookstore. And I called it out because how silly for 4 or 5 different businesses to all be owned by people of the exact same age. Correction, she does not own the bookstore. She is the manager. The book calls her the operational manager, which just builds my argument that this author has never worked, better done, but this author has never worked a retail job in her life because, and this is coming from someone, I know I said it last time, I have a lot of experience in cafes and boutiques and family-owned businesses. Hi, I've lived many lives. But she would not be called the operations manager, it would just be manager. And if you're lucky, you have an assistant manager, but honestly, you probably have a manager and someone who's just been there a really long time. That's how that usually breaks down too. Oi, oi. Oh, that's okay. I thought that was sealed. It's not. Can you do that? Can you get the can out or no? It's so much messier than I thought. But back to Hazel. So it's summer, so it's really slow in the store because everyone wants to be outside. Reminder that this book takes place on the East Coast, assumedly somewhere in Massachusetts. Don't know why, but that feels right. You know what I mean? I'm scared. Ah! It opened the other way. It's fine. It's fine. I'll live. But Hazel is sad that she's turning 30 in 2 months. And maybe sad isn't quite the right word, because she isn't sad that she's turning 30, but rather she's sad that she hasn't had adventures in life, is how she puts it. That when she goes to trivia night, she has nothing to show off to her friends, right? She has lived this normal, boring life so far. And as she's having this thought, across the store, she sees a single book, crooked, on the shelf. And then she goes over, and it's a romance, shelved in the wrong section. And then she looks inside, and there's an ear, a doggy ear, flapped down, and a single message highlighted. Come with me, lass, if you want an adventure. Which, low-key, gives me chills, which just shows how easily impressed I am. I don't know what you want from me, all right? I'm here for a good time. And as she is standing there, looking at this book, be shocked that the books are talking to her for once. I need to wash my hands. In comes Noah, the local hot fisherman, asking, is there something new for him to read? Because he's been coming in constantly looking for books. And naturally, since he caught her reading a smutty book with a pirate captain on it, he starts making fun of her, and she's like, no, it's not me, I promise. Okay, we're just gonna do a splash, I think. And since Noah magically appeared as she found this clue and the book's about a pirate captain, she accuses him of planting it and making fun of her, and he's like, no, blah, 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 adventure is out there, a mystery is afoot, right? And now they're both invested. Hazel, at this point, believes that he didn't do it. I don't. This takes a lot of concentration. At this point, I didn't. And I thought it was either him or Annie, who is Hazel's Pretty. Tell me it's pretty. Thank you. Annie, who is her best friend who owns the local bakery, because Annie kind of comes in whenever she wants because Hazel worked there forever. Annie's way too comfortable, etc., etc. She doesn't believe it's Noah. He convinces her that it wasn't him. He didn't convince me. So at this point, I have a suspect list. I have Annie and I have Noah. I need you to know I am never right. I am never right. After this, we switch back to Noah's POV as he heads back home. Home is relative, I will say, because he doesn't head back to his apartment. Instead, and we get a spoon. Instead, he heads back to a abandoned fisherman's hut. I don't know what a fisherman's hut is, but there's an abandoned one, or there's a series of abandoned ones, and he is just illegally squatting in one. This man has an apartment. He grew up a fisherman, so he knew what they were right away. They're super run down. He starts fixing it up without telling anyone, and then just kind of starts hanging out in there. Sure. I will say it's a lot more charming than I'm making it sound, because it is. It's just such a weird thing. I don't know. I don't think we have fisherman huts where I am. I should measure this. It's supposed to be a cup. I was just gonna raw dog it. I was just gonna scoop it up with my hand. Okay. But back to him having a crush on Hazel. Yeah, he's been coming in for months, just buying a new book every week. I don't know how I'm supposed to get this in here without using my hands. Don't judge me. But just as an excuse to talk to her. And he has this lingering self-doubt that he is not good enough for her, not smart enough. She's pretty and put together, and she's well-read, and blah, 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 blah. And he thinks that he is stupid. So that's the conflict. But he's a kid that ran away from home, from the family business, which I have to mention because it took me by surprise. His family business, his dad started it, and it's now a multi-million-dollar fish business. But they don't go beyond that. Why do you have to point out this multi-million? What? I don't know. I thought it was weird. I don't know what the business is. I just know he got money. And he's just pretending to be... His family has money. He has money. He's just kind of pretending to be poor, illegally squatting in a fisherman's house. That's so fucking weird. I didn't think about that till just now. But like I said, he keeps coming in wanting to talk to her, but instead of talking to her, he just keeps buying books. He says the upside is he's read more books in the past month than he has in his entire life, but the downside that books are expensive and he still hasn't asked her on a date, which I think is very funny. Books are, in fact, expensive. And I will say that this is a dual PO. How much fucking sugar fits in a cup? You know what? I'm calling it. That's enough. No more. Don't thumbs me down. And I will say that this book is a dual POV book, so it does jump back and forth, kind of at will. The chapter, back to this being a poorly written book, the chapter structure, awful. Some chapters are just 3 pages, and it will always switch back and forth, whether it's important or not. So, whatever. All this to say that it can feel a little choppy, and I will try my best to smooth it over, but no promises. Back to Hazel. At this point, she has found a second clue. It says, the blueberries popped tart and bright in her mouth. They tasted like summer and new beginnings, which stirs some vague memory of blueberry picking as a child, but she doesn't know what. It just kind of tickles something in the back of her mind.
Needed the second stick of butter.
It does not need a second stick of butter. I think this is perfect. Love. It smells really good. Holy cow. It's supposed to be a cup of pecans, but I am the one in charge here, so I can do whatever I want. But after finding this clue, she has lunch with the girlies. Jeannie, who owns Jeannie, who owns the cafe. Protagonist from the last book. She's in love. Whatever, good for her. Jeannie and then Annie, aforementioned best friend. They're having lunch, and Jeannie invites both of them to I'm so scared to do this. Okay. She invites both of them to a bonfire at Logan. There's so many fucking characters. Logan is Jeannie's main character from the last book, also Hazel's best friend. More than Annie, in my opinion, personally. But Jeannie invites to Logan's family farmhouse that Hazel grew up going to, which Annie is like, Hazel probably doesn't want to go. Summer makes her grumpy. She's an indoor house cat. She's not that type of girl. And so whether to prove a point or because she's insecure about turning 30, Hazel agrees to go. And she does, in fact, hate it. At this point, Hazel is feeling some type of way. She feels really insecure because she's happy about the life that she has lived. It is boring to say she's always made the right choice, while also regretting never doing anything fun and adventurous. And those two things are kind of conflicting inside her as she's sitting here at this bonfire, listening to everyone tell these fun stories. She is jealous and also not. And that could sound like bad writing, but I am once again being called out by my full government name and social security number at this point. So, yeah, I'm someone who decided to stay home for college, then decided to take a gap year, which led to COVID, and then got diagnosed as disabled, like all in my mid 20s. So, if there was a picture next to the definition of a house cat, it would be me and Lady curled up in way too many blankets. So, I will never be one to pass judgment on anyone in a similar situation. But that night, while at the bonfire, Hazel ends up going inside as just an excuse to not be eaten by bugs. Again, she considers this place a second home. She goes in, says hi to Nana and Grandpa, and ends up just like taking a bottle of wine and sitting outside in the little kitchen garden. Because again, too familiar. Oh, I did not put any on this one. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, babe. No, I'm not going to do it. Do you want to do it? And as she sits out there, she's thinking about the crooked books. She's thinking about, here you go. Wait, pretty. There we are. She's gorgeous. Here you go, love. Oh, it's heavy. Oh, I meant to put it in the oven, but that helps too. But as she's sitting out in that garden, drinking alone, she's thinking about these books, wondering, does this even count as a mystery? Or is it just someone messing with her? Or is it just someone put back the wrong books? What have you? And as she is sitting there, she looks up to see a blueberry bush, one that she grew up picking every summer. And suddenly she realizes maybe it is time to have an adventure. And see, that's where Noah finds her, drunk on half a bottle of wine, staring at this bushel of blueberries, just looking sad. And he sits with her and she asks him, will you help me solve this mystery? You're the most adventurous person I've ever met. Will you take me on this adventure? Or will you go on this adventure with me? And when he says yes, she throws herself at him, giving him a kiss, which made me gasp. The gasp I gasped. And I had to put my book down and be like, we're already starting strong. We're starting strong, dude. And this is when I knew it wasn't just going to be a rinse and repeat of the last book. And on that note, I'm going to have my love put in the cinnamon buns, and we are going to move to our normal setup as we wait for those to cook. Hello. So it is the next morning. I had a bit of an issue last night after we put the cinnamon buns in to bake. I came to lay down before I set up here, and I got really shooting nerve pain up and down my leg. And for me, it's sciatica. It's not sciatica. It wraps around my leg in a weird spiral that doesn't follow any nerve patterns. So, but it got really bad out of nowhere, which means I had to cancel filming, as one does. But that is part of living with chronic illness and chronic pain. And so we pick ourselves up and we try again the next day. It is what it is. But, that being said, my partner did record himself finishing off the cinnamon buns for us. You can see just how they looked right out the oven and how they looked this morning. That looks fake. That's like glossy. That looks fake. Does this have too much butter and sugar? Yes. Am I going to die before 30? Yes. And that's okay. You know, it's the holidays, and maybe I didn't want to live till 30. But it smells fantastic, and I did sneak a little bit last night when I wasn't feeling great. And I'm gonna let you know, that shit's good. That shit's good. It really just reminds me of that one meme where it's like, why does restaurant food just taste so good? Butter. Butter. This is way too much butter. Like I said, I'll link that down below. Eat at your own discretion. But let's hop back into it, yeah? So, last we left off, Hazel had wrapped herself around Noah and gave him a big ol' smooch for agreeing to help her with this adventure. But Noah is a gentleman, and he pushed her off and was like, hey, we can't do this. Which makes her very, very self-conscious, as it would most people. But he tells her that it's because she's drunk, not because he doesn't want to kiss her. And if she wasn't drunk, he'd keep kissing her, which haunts her, as it would me. But she confesses that there's only 2 months left until she turns 30, and she just wants to learn what it's like to be reckless and have fun, which he is down to help with. And which we also learn that he's 25, she's 30, he's 25, and it just makes her feel more self-conscious about it, about like getting older. But he's 25, he has two little nieces who he adores, and because she asked him about some bracelets that he has on, and he realizes, quote, he wants her to think he was a good uncle and wise beyond his years and really anything other than just a reckless fun time. And I love this type of tension that we have going on. Hazel thinks that she's too boring and she wants to be more fun and more careless, and that she's not hot enough for a guy like Noah. Noah, on the other hand, thinks she's incredibly hot and that he's too reckless and too careless for someone so put together and chic, I guess. I don't think she'd call herself chic, but I think she's chic. But that he's not collected enough for Hazel. She's much more of an adult than he is, right? And this could be grading the I'm not good enough for you trope, except that it's not just self-deprecating longing. It is this longing then paired with action. They're choosing to chase each other, and they chase each other kind of in this circle, right? It's the longing paired with the action. Oh, I think that you deserve better, so I will be better type scenario, and that push and pull is actually quite fun. I fear that when the I'm not good enough for you trope happens, it's so easy to fall into the rut of I'm not good enough for you, so I hate myself, and then they don't do anything to make themselves feel better about themselves. They just learn I'm fine exactly how I am, and that's not how people work. We are constantly growing and changing, and if you think you're not good enough for someone and you want to be better, yes, like, don't change yourself for a person, you know what I mean? But I think that there is also truth in I see someone who I love, who I want to be better for. I want to be the better version of me. And I feel like I just don't see that enough in media. I want to be the best version of me for this person I care about, right? And so I just really like that. And again, maybe I'm reading a lot of bad books lately. That's what it feels like. It feels like I'm reading a lot of bad books. Bad books that are bad but not fun. This one at least is not great but fun, you know? So, and that's the kind of insight you come to this channel for, okay? Bad but not bad but fun. So don't forget to subscribe if you're here and enjoying the bad but not bad but fun vibes. Or leave a like or a dislike to tell me how you truly feel, whether good or bad. I'm open to it all. And while you're down there, drop a comment, even if it's just to complain about the cold. Like always, any fleeting thought is welcome in the comments. But anyway, our lovebirds are filled with tension sitting on the stoop, and they are away so long that the rest of the crew comes to look for them, which I want to point out. We see this through Noah's point of view. Noah is Logan's best male friend, right? Hazel, Logan, best friends. Logan, in love with Jeannie, whatever. Noah, Logan, best guy, male friends, right? The whole crew comes out, and Logan is holding a black cat that Noah is like, I have no idea where you got this from. And that Logan's just the kind of guy to just find strays. Strays are just a magnet to him. And I love that, and that also feels like a dig at Jeannie. Personally, I kind of wish that we had gotten that sentiment of Logan's the type of guy. Logan is a magnet for strays. I wish that had come up in the last book, because I think that's actually a really insightful piece that was just kind of dropped here. And I'm like, there's almost something there. Come on. I see you wanting Miss Lori Gilmore. I see you wanting to put the world that exists up here onto paper. And I see the vision you have that you want to bring to life, and you're so good at crossing the not good, bad, but fun threshold into good and fun threshold. You know what I mean? Like, we're at the precipice, one might say. But yeah, they get walked in on, and Hazel at this point mentions that it could be the book club that is leaving the messages before, like, they disband for the night. Noah actually ends up taking her home, which is very sweet. I still think it could be Annie or Noah, yes, even though we see from his POV. I'm not ruling him out just yet. But the next morning, Hazel, incredibly hungover, she gets lunch with her dad, the mayor, as she does every Thursday. And this is not important to the story whatsoever. I just wanted to bring it up because I love that Hazel has two dads who live in a duplex with her mom and her dogs. I love that. It doesn't add anything to the story but some flavor, but I think that's a good flavor. Like, that's so fun. Especially knowing that Hazel moved here in the 9th grade. They moved here for Frank, her stepdad. Hazel, mayor dad, mom, mayor dad, stepdad Frank. All three of them moved here for Frank, for mayor dad to mayor Frank, to marry Frank, and then become the mayor? The choice of the mayor parent not being the one that was born and raised in Dream Harbor, but he's the one who has prophetic dreams, is really fucking funny to me. And the mom just along for the ride. Just along for the ride. This adds nothing to the story, but my own enjoyment. And that's what I mean about fun. I love fun. I just think they're so rad. Okay, I think this is cooled down enough to take a bite. Oh my god, that's good. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm leaving this recipe down in the description. Oh my god, that is so good. Even if you don't make this recipe, adding pecans to just the top, like a little bit of the Kerrygold cinnamon butter with pecans on top and just like a splash of the cream, like even that little bit, I think will make a huge difference. That's so good. Hazel, since the night before, has been thinking nonstop about Noah, about kissing her, about saying that like if she wasn't drunk he would keep kissing her, and she works herself up into not a fit, but she's really anxious about it, and she wants to call the entire thing off until Noah shows up the next morning being like, hey, I just want to check up on you. Like I said, he drove her home, and he's like, hey, I want to make sure, like, you were really drunk. I want to make sure you're okay, right? Sweet. Love that. And he was so excited about it that she can't bring herself to call off the entire mystery. And instead she promises to call him when she finds another clue, which she does. Quote, vanilla milkshakes are objectively better, colder and sweeter. Evie smiled around her straw and took another sip. But does she call him? No. She's like, I don't actually want to involve him in this. Instead, she goes to the supermarket on her own to buy stuff for a vanilla milkshake, where he shows up in the frozen aisle, which I think is supposed to be, he's like this, like, ooh, like leaning, there's nothing for me to lean on. Pretend I'm leaning on something. He's leaning, like running his hands through his hair, being like hot and shit. But it's just menacing as fuck when you turn around, there's a guy just behind you being like, hey, what's up? Like, no, stop it. But she feels so guilty seeing him and not immediately calling him that she just spills the beans right then. It's like, no, there was another, I'm sorry, there's a thing, da 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 da. And she gets really flustered about it. So they make plans to meet at Mac's later that night to make the milkshakes, which, love this detail, Evie realizes that he makes her really flustered, but maybe she makes him just as flustered because he leaves the grocery store with nothing in his hand. And I just love that detail. I love that call out. But yeah, later that night, they go to Mac's pub. If you don't remember, Mac owns the pub. Him and Annie, who owns the bakery, mortal enemies, but they really just want to bang. Noah rents an apartment above Mac's, and he will occasionally work there, so he doesn't own a blender, and she doesn't want him in her house, so they go there instead, right? And that's it. They make a milkshake, and it's yummy, and that's kind of it. And this was the first moment where I started to get worried, because I don't need a great mystery. I don't need a good mystery, because in reality, I'm not going to solve it. Not gonna solve it. I can't do it. I don't know what it is. But I still want a mystery. You know what I mean? I want it to lead somewhere. And I think I realized with this clue in particular that none of these clues were leading to anything other than an experience, which is fine, but they don't connect to the next clue or the greater mystery overall. And okay, sure, it's not a mystery. It's a scavenger hunt. You want to consider it a scavenger hunt. Or like a game of bingo. But then there's nothing for them to turn in to prove that they did the thing. That's the point of a scavenger hunt. You have proof that you found all of these things. The two of them have these experiences together, but there's no one checking their work that they're doing what they said they did. You know, and so at that, when you realize that, it's like, okay, so what's the point of these? Exactly. Which makes this entire thing feel rather aimless, right? And I like to think there's a really easy fix to this. Which is to have each clue lead them to a small item that is the key to solving the next clue, right? So for this instance, in the grocery store, on top of the pint of vanilla ice cream, there could have been like a festive light bulb, right? Or a cotton candy wrapper. This isn't supposed to be here, but this could also mean nothing level of severity, is I think is the word I'm looking for. With this clue, knowing what the next clue is, this one could have been left in a Shakespeare book or something talking about Shakespeare or a collection of his greatest works, you know what I mean? And then, okay, that by itself is a clue into what the next one is. They all kind of connect, right? And all of those things, if you haven't read the book, if I'm telling them to you now, if you don't know what the next clue is, those mean nothing to you. They're just little bits of information. But then if you're Hazel and you get the next clue, which is, quote, the descent of the Ferris wheel made her stomach swoop with nerves, end quote, then it's really easy to put the dots together that, oh, I have to ride the Ferris wheel at the Midsummer Night Carnival. Yes, the Ferris wheel clue is very straightforward, because where the fuck else are you going to get a Ferris wheel? You know, but it makes it feel more narratively satisfying. Having these clues feel like they're adding up to something bigger instead of feeling completely disjointed. Or if you want to be really creative about it, you could have them be gathering things at every single pit stop, and at the very end have all the things they gathered form, like the Power Rangers, form the final clue. And I think that's my biggest complaint about the book, is that the clues themselves feel kind of disjointed. We're doing things to do things, and you kind of realize it very early on, is like, why are we doing things? But if you're questioning why, it makes it a little bit less enjoyable. So you don't question why, and then things feel disjointed. But if I'm being honest, the grammar and this are my two biggest complaints. Other than that, it's a fun book. And those two things are easy to fix. They're very easy to fix. So I think that we're in very good hands for the most part. Which is why I think I finished it and like felt so good about it having read it. I was like, oh no, it was fun. I had a good time. Even though I know it's not a perfectly constructed, whatever. I've gone through this so much. Like I said, the clue leads our lovebirds to the Midsummer Night Festival, where Hazel has to ride the Ferris wheel. So, this carnival is the one big event put on by the local school to help fund most of, if not all of the year's yearly activities. So the town goes all out, which I actually quite like. Everyone shows up to spend money, which means anyone in town is there. And they are ready for gossip, as would I. And everyone is giving Noah knowing winks. They're looking at him because, of course, they're being incredibly coupley around the carnival. They're holding hands. He wins her 3-foot-tall penguin, leaning on each other. She eats cotton candy off of his fingers, which makes them completely short-circuit, which I love. And she says that if they keep this up, the whole town's going to have them married off by Monday, which he says he would not mind. And because Hazel is very autistic coded, she blurts out, what about his reputation about nothing long-term and only messing with tourists and temporary girls? She doesn't recognize his flirting. She goes, that doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? Which I love. I love Hazel so much. I love her so much. I don't know if Hazel and Noah are prime autistic girlfriend, ADHD boyfriend, and I don't know if the author herself is either of those things, maybe both, or has friends, but in the writing, there's a lot of truth to what is happening. Again, I see myself in Hazel in moments like this very specifically, and I see my partner in moments like this and in moments with Noah and things of that nature. So yeah, there's a lot of truth there, and I just really appreciate it, and I thought it was very sweet, even when it's really awkward, and I love that. She even asks him if it's true that one weekend he slept with an entire bachelorette party, to which he says it wasn't an entire bachelorette party, to which I said, hell yeah, dude. But he said there's a first time for everything. Again, he's being very smooth with it. And Hazel convinces herself it's about one day sleeping with an entire bachelorette party all at once, instead of, maybe I would like a long-term relationship. You know, like it just goes. And as much as I want to make fun of her for it, I can't say shit because I too would have thought that same thing. Anyway, at this point, specifically at the Midsummer's Carnival, my suspect list had grown. Because earlier in the day, when Hazel found the clue, the original Ferris wheel clue, it was right after reading time, which Annie had come in to drop off snacks for the kids. And Annie is one of the few people who know about Hazel's fear of Ferris wheels, because when they were kids, Hazel and Annie got stuck at the top. There was like some sort of malfunction and they got stopped for about an hour. Hazel, terrified of heights, and she was scared that she was going to die without ever having kissed anyone. Which Annie was like, I'll kiss you. And Hazel was like, no, I don't want to kiss you. Which, again, I love the little detail. I love that. A true bestie. So we have Annie, and then at the carnival, Isabel, she is one of the romance book club girlies. She is the one that has a baby. Not important, just know if I'm ever talking about the gaggle of book club girlies, not all of them are girlies, and one of them is a baby. But at the carnival, Isabel was acting suspicious and saying stuff to Noah and giving him knowing looks and lingering looks. So she knows something's up, but that could just be that she loves romance. And then lastly, Hayes' dad. Dads, plural, Pete and Frank, which I've now learned who Pete is. If you'd seen our last video, there was a character named Pete who had shown up. The name showed up 3 times to say mischievous things, and I did not know who this man was. I went back and listened to those sections afterwards. I listened to them twice in the moment of, because I'm like, where the fuck is Pete coming from? He's coming out of nowhere. He's coming out of the walls. Like, who is this man? Come to find out, it's the mayor. It's Pete Kelly. And I'm going to call out the moment, because I use Pete's name here. Mr. Mayor Pete Kelly. I use his name throughout the script. But I need you to know, I'm going to call out the moment I finally figured it out. And it's going to be way later in the book than it should be. I'll be so honest with you. But anyway, Pete and Frank were also in the course of one chapter, added to the suspect list and then removed from the suspect list because they were added because they seemed way too excited about Hazel like tackling the Ferris wheel finally, and for her it was a boy nonetheless. They're very excited for her, but then they were removed because I'm like, this is kind of weird that they're purposely putting clues in dirty romance novels, trying to get her to live a more exciting life. That's a weird thing for a dad to do, you know? No matter how many you have, it's a weird thing. But at this point, I realized I didn't know why the mystery is happening, so it was making it really hard to figure out who it could be, because who cares if Hazel lives an exciting life or not, you know? It's just weird. Again, going back to why are they going the places that they're going? What are they getting out of it, right? But we don't have time for that, because the next morning, everyone is asking Noah about the carnival and how it went. Even Logan, who does not like being involved in the town gossip, stops him on the street and was like, hey man, what was that? Which, it makes sense because Logan, I know I've done the tree so many times. Logan and Noah are besties. Wait, did it wrong. Logan and Noah are besties, and then Logan and Hazel are besties. Like, I understand why he would care, but it's still so funny. And Noah is just like, et tu, Brute? Like, even you are involved in this, because everyone is stopping it. And I like that Noah tries to turn around on Logan, being like, you weren't even there. And Logan's like, we didn't go, not because we weren't gonna go, but because Jeannie had a pretty sundress on. And we got stuck. Which is so funny. It's just, I know there's why it's done. I know why there's so many books who are like, they all take place in one town and you just bounce around to the friend group, blah, 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 blah. But it really does feel nice seeing the love interest from the first book, the first go around. It's nice seeing them happy because it just feels like your friends are happy. You know what I mean? I'm like, cute. But Logan betraying Noah gets cut short because Hazel texts with the next clue. Quote, she dug her toes into the cool sand and dipped her head back, letting the sun caress her face, end quote, which she found in a book called Seduction Cove. But this clue is pretty straightforward. It means that they have to go to the beach, which Hazel is not excited about. She burns like crazy, and last time, a bird pooped on her sandwich. So she is pouty about it, but Noah is hyped. He loves the beach, he loves being outside, he loves being able to do things with his hands, right? Oh, that'll be funny for you in like a minute. I did not mean, that's not in the script, I did not mean to say that. But he ends up calling this a date, which leads to them talking about how like, wow, this can get complicated. He doesn't want it to get complicated, but he's like, let me take lead here, because one, this is his domain, but two, he just, almost as if this is a role he is trying to fulfill, he's like, I want you to have a good time. You asked me for my help. I want to fulfill on the help that was asked. Which, unfortunately, is starting to put him into the mind space of, I'm only good for a one-night stand because that is all I can offer her, and I will offer it fully and freely. If that's all she wants from me, I will give her that, you know? Not a healthy mindset to be in. But they go on this date. And like I said, Noah sets up everything. He brings a blanket. He brings her a giant hat because she mentioned that she burns. On top of sunscreen, even though she came wearing sunscreen already. But just in case. He also brings bug spray because at the bonfire, she was getting covered in bug bites. I love that for her, this is like really thoughtful. For him, he's like, I just really like looking at your thighs. At least he's honest with us. And he also packs them a lunch, which when they go to eat it, he does chase off the seagulls. Every time they start to get close, he'll get up and run after them, which I think is very cute. That's the moment that made me like him a lot, because it's just so silly. She was sad a bird pooped on her sandwich, and so he chases the birds away. Alright, fine. You're getting me, Noah, you're getting me. But they spend the day at the beach, walking around and looking for little treasures. Which if you haven't visited a beach, put it on your bucket list. Walking up and down a beach looking for little treasures and just stuffing them in your pockets and inevitably running out of space to hold them and just like having to raw dog fist them. It's an experience I want everyone to have, personally. It's one of the small joys in life. This is also when they start calling their little adventure a little mystery scavenger hunt. Even though there's not hunting for anything, it's fine, but at least now it's not being called a mystery, now it's being called a scavenger hunt. I'm still going to call it the mystery, but just know, even the book is a little self-aware about this. Noah then calls out Annie as like the head of his suspect list, which makes sense. He calls out Annie and Hazel's dads, which makes me feel better that they were on my list, Annie being at the top, because it confirms that I'm reading the story correctly. Like I said, I am bad at solving mysteries. Like, I'm comically bad at solving mysteries. So even though that means that, like, them being called out as suspects in the story for me, crosses them off of my list. I felt unreasonably happy that I was at least on the same page, roughly, as like where I'm supposed to be. Which, this also reinvigorated my hope slightly that this was leading somewhere interesting. Because if you're going to call out, if you're self-aware enough to call out the biggest suspects in the game, okay, you got something else up your sleeve. It's not just gonna, we're not just gonna all pretend that all the signs saying Annie aren't there. You know what I mean? So, this is about the halfway point, and I had gone from excited to lukewarm to excited again. And like I said, they have this lovely little date. They are curled up on the beach towel together, and so far, they're near the abandoned... Okay, if you've never been to a beach, California, we have a lot of sand on our beaches. The further north you go, we get more of a rocky coast, but even then you can find long stretches of sand, right? On the East Coast, what this is telling me is that there's a lot of rocks on the beach, right? That it's a lot of rocky coast broken up with like little pockets of sand. It's kind of how this is described. They're far down from the big stretch where a lot of people are, and even then they see it's kind of emptying out because later in the day, but they're not all the way to the shacks, but they are secluded, right? They're secluded enough away from other people. And so, because they're in this little bubble of privacy, they end up sharing secrets with one another. Also, the reason why I bring up the two different types of beaches, East Coast versus West Coast beach, is because this scene didn't make sense to me, and I had to go back and reread it to be like, to really visualize it in my head, because when I picture beaches, I think California beaches, being a California native, etc., etc. That's why I had to call it out. Just in case you're also thinking, what do you mean you can't see people down the beach? It's a beach, right? But they're in this little secluded place. They can't see people. They're very secluded away from everyone else, right? So they start telling each other secrets, which Noah ends up sharing that he never finished high school, which Hazel says, oh, that makes sense. Don't say that to people. Don't ever say that to people. And she brings it back because he gets a little offended, and she says, no, it's because you're always disparaging your own intelligence. As in, you think you're fucking dumb and you're not. So that makes sense as to why you think that. And this leads him to confessing not only did he not finish high school, but he also ran away from his family business. He has a really hard time with numbers and focusing. I don't know if I mentioned this. His family has a multi-million-dollar fishing business. And that's all they really call it. I don't know what business this is, but it's a multi-million-dollar fishing business. And he always felt out of place with the numbers and having to be in an office, but he felt really, really at home being on the ocean with his dad on the boat. It's the only place where he feels like he can be focused and be present, which makes a lot of sense from what we have been shown from him already, which makes us feel satisfied. But in turn, when it's Hazel's turn to confess, she confesses shamefully and with her entire heart and soul, she does not believe in her dad's prophetic dreams. No, I will not elaborate, but this makes Noah burst out laughing because he assumed no one believed in the mayor's prophetic dreams. Apparently that's not the case. He thought it was all like a PR thing because Dream Harbor, the mayor has dreams, it's called Dreamers, if you're a Dream Harbor resident, you're a dreamer. He thought it was good PR, and Hazel was like scandalized. No, people believe him. And they don't elaborate, I'm not gonna elaborate. I think that's so funny. And you know how I said the hands thing? Yeah, I don't have a transition into this. He ends up fingering her on the beach. 3 out of 5. And this is why I had to clarify which type of beach we were dealing with, because in my head, I'm like, y'all are doing this in public. What do you mean you can't see people down the beach? You know what I mean? So, pretty steamy. Lots of fun. And the next day, this is all she can think about, is... Ew. But the next day, this is all she can think about, which is really embarrassing to be thinking about when the romance book club, who are there for their weekly meeting, then ask you out of nowhere, hey, Hayes, what are your thoughts about having sex in a hammock? Like, logistically. Like, do you think it could work? Because I don't think it would work. I can't think of a hammock that fits 2 people. I don't think the gravity situation would work, and she is just red in the face. And this made me genuinely laugh out loud, simply because it took me by such surprise, but also at the same time, I'm pretty sure I have had similar conversations with coworkers on slow days. You know what I mean? Oh man. As much as Hazel is down bad for our boy, she is still trying to figure out who is leaving the clues. So, given presented the opportunity of being brought into the romance club, she ends up asking them, hey, have you seen anyone touching books, marking up books, folding down things, etc., etc. To which Nancy and Linda both look guilty as hell. They look shocked and suspicious, and they're making eyes with each other, which Nancy and Linda are both married. They're in love. And for a moment, I did consider that they were leaving notes for each other. You know what I mean? Because leaving notes in a book is just genuinely so romantic and very lesbian coded. I did consider it. And Hazel ends up having a similar thought. She thinks maybe these clues are meant for someone else, and that she's stealing their adventure, and suddenly she feels very, very self-conscious, and as if there's a joke that she is not in on, with everyone looking suspicious and things of that. It brings up these feelings of being intentionally excluded. And once again, I did not need this book to call me out by name, okay? Like, I have such a vivid memory of being in 6th grade where my friend Kay, we'll call her Kay, she approached me and told me, she approached me on the blacktop, completely unprompted, and told me, oh, she invited me to her birthday party as long as I didn't tell you. But I said no, because you're my friend and you're sometimes funny. And I just wanted you to know. To which I said, thank you for telling me, I really appreciate it. And I meant it. I did appreciate that she told me. Didn't occur to me later that, like, what do you mean this person I've known my entire life is telling everyone that they can come to her birthday party as long as they don't tell me? I realized that years later, okay? So, apparently it was a really common occurrence. But at the same time, I was a weird fucking kid. So at this point, I get it. I get it. It's fine. Anyway, back to the story, right? Hazel asked them point blank, are you guys doing anything? And they are genuinely like, oh my god, no, we would never do that to you. You work here. We care about you. We care about books. We would never deface them intentionally. And she believes them, and so do I. But they're off the list, but not fully, not for me, okay? They're the bottom of the list, all right? But Hazel is back to square one with no new clues and no suspects. And with no new clues coming up, she doesn't have a reason to talk to Noah, so she decides to just go visit him at Mac's bar, just to kind of talk to him. She ends up bringing a book to a bar, which I love. It's very Manic Pixie Dream Girl coded to sit at a bar by yourself with your book in your lap as you just sip on your drink. You know what I mean? But it works because she's just genuinely kind of waiting for her friend to be free on a busy night. So, but he ends up walking her home. There's a lot of tension. They got hot and steamy. She looks at him and goes, maybe we should have sex. And not as a seduction, but just as a matter of fact. It makes sense. It's practical. And that is how she thinks of sex. Quote, this is why she only had sex within the safe boundaries of a long-term relationship. There's nothing to explain when you wanted to have sex with your boyfriend. You just both worked it into your schedules, right? Right? End quote. No. Let me be your Thea for a second, okay? Sex is fun. But it is meant to be fun for all involved. It is not something you do every Thursday just because you feel like you have a duty or an obligation to do so. You can still schedule it and have fun. Busy bitches deserve love too, okay? Like, that is not the problem here. It is just not a duty that needs to be fulfilled. If no one has ever told you that, I'm the one telling you that right now, okay? It should be fun. If you're not having fun, maybe it's time to step away. And I'll always bring that up because that's something I wish someone had told me when I was very young, in my early 20s. Versus now I'm old. And now I'm not going to describe the sex scene for you. I'm not going to do that. I will never do that. But I will say it's a 4 out of 5 in my opinion, personally. And I bring it up more because I think it's a great example of what I always say. Which, excuse the binary language because this is a phrase I need to workshop to be more inclusionary. But date a man who likes women, not just you. Like I said, excuse the binary. And I know that can bristle some feathers because, if he can appreciate and find other women attractive, he's going to stray, being the mental note, right? Nah. Honey, if he's going to cheat, period. Like, that has nothing to do with you. No matter how much it feels like it does, it doesn't. If someone can do that, that's on them. And that's not someone who likes women, that's someone who likes pussy. Different. No, when I say someone loves women, they think of women as smart, capable, beautiful individuals. As in Greek statue level of appreciation. Okay? We love the tummies, we love the thighs, we love everything about the idea, the concept of a woman, period. Not just you. because these are the type of individuals that will see sex as a conversation, not as an exchange. And that's what keeps it fun. And that is what this scene does very well. The sex is used as a conversation. And Hazel comes out of it feeling heard. She feels devoured? No. She feels desired and appreciated. And keep in mind, they have not even had full sex yet. I'm sorry, I'm whispering. I live with my in-laws. I don't want them to hear me talking about sex. But they're still in, like, the fooling around stage, right? She invites Noah to spend the night, which he does, which means the next morning when he gets called by his nieces, being like, hey, Uncle Noah, they immediately call him out for being at a sleepover, and he's not at home. Where are you? Why are you having a sleepover with a friend? Which will be important in a second. They call him because they're complaining about not wanting another baby in the house. Meaning his sister is pregnant and hasn't told him yet. And turns out she is having a really, really hard pregnancy with her husband being deployed, and they've really only told their parents so far. She hasn't told anyone else because it hasn't been a good time. And this kicks Noah's ass into high gear. He's like, oh, I need to go home. I need to help my sister. And his nieces are like, are you coming home for Thanksgiving? Are you coming home for X, Y, and Z? And he's like, I have to go home now. Fuck, how am I supposed to do that with Hazel? So he says, let me ride out the summer, finish out a few tours that I have left, and then I will come home, right? His sister does not believe him. That is important. And because nothing is set in stone just yet, he doesn't tell Hazel about leaving. He tells her about his family, but not that he has to go home. Just, my nieces called me. They wanted to show me their Halloween costumes, etc., etc. He wants her to be happy and healthy, so they don't talk about heavy things. Instead, they just sneak around town, making out in dark corners. Good for them. Good for them. So much so that no one has seen Hazel in the past week, which is crazy. Call your friends. Let them know you're alive. But Annie actually ends up coming into the bookstore, using the back door, being like, bitch, where have you been? Like, you're sneaking around with Noah. You're not being secret about it. What is going on? You don't not talk to me. You know what I mean? Which means Hazel has to come clean about everything. She comes clean about the whole mystery. She's clean about she has no idea who it is, why she's even following it, and also these feelings of, like, wanting to find adventure and why she went to Noah. And at this point, she's like, I'm out of ideas. I don't know what to do. And this became much bigger than I thought it was going to be. Why are you yelling at me? And Annie says, oh, it's obviously Noah. Annie's also the one being like, Noah's been wanting to go out with you for a very long time. He's had the hots for you for a very long time. It's not my fault. You're not listening when I talk. To which Hazel has no comeback, but I say, what about Nancy and Linda? What about them? Why are they still being weird? And I'm still not convinced at this point that it's not Annie. And also, because they're having this conversation, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get a third act breakup. Wah, wah. Which is never my favorite, personally. But at this point, it's time for another town meeting. Again, she set the precedent, Miss Lori Gilmore set the precedent of having a town meeting every 2 weeks. You don't need to have a town meeting every 2 weeks. It's once a month, babe. It's once a month. But this meeting is where I learned that Pete is the town mayor, because Logan, or Noah, calls him Pete. Chapter 18 of book 2, where he's been mentioned, like, 8 times. Now I know his name is Pete. Oh my god. Ugh. It's Mayor Pete Kelly, and I felt real stupid. But at the same time, like, I'm not kidding when I say I went back and listened to those segments multiple times, because I'm like, I have to be stupid. I have to be missing this. What is this? And personally, it feels like I wasn't the only one who missed this, because when one of Logan or Noah, I don't remember who says it, but they say it because they say, oh, sorry, Pete, and he goes, that's Mr. Mayor to you. We're in a town meeting. Oh, sorry, Mayor. It feels like a direct call out by Miss Gilmore. So I'm probably not the only one. And I'm going to hold on to that with my cold dead hands, personally. But Mayor Pete Kelly announces that someone bought the local Christmas tree farm. Because of course there's a local Christmas tree farm in this small town. Come on. And he has invited this new owner to speak at this week's town meeting. And here we meet Kira. She walks in and almost walked out because she is shocked at how many people are in attendance. She says she thought this was going to be a different type of meeting with just the mayor, but no, instead he invites her up front to discuss what are her plans, if she wants to open the Christmas tree farm, or if she wants to do something else with it, to which she says no. This is my private property. I don't have to tell anyone anything. Goodbye. And she leaves. And I love her, I fear. Like, oh my god. And where is it? Fun fact, this was the first book I picked up in the series because I recognized the cover. I picked it up last year. I saw the cover. It was Christmas time. I was like, oh, I'll give it a read. And I made to page 2 before I put it down, I think, because of how much I hated Kira. She pissed me off just off the bat, and I cannot wait to talk about that in the next video. But ironically, because I've now read the first 2 books, I'm actually very happy that Kira is a bitch, right? I'm happy that she's so bristly because it shows that Miss Gilmore is making strong choices and making everyone feel distinct, or at least trying her best to make everyone feel distinct, right? And I have to respect it. I have to respect the choice. And so that is the preview for the next one. But I respect it. But Kira, she tells Donna to leave her alone, and she leaves, and I love that for her, personally. Because she is right, like, I bought the property. I don't need to tell anyone what I'm going to do with it. It's mine. But then Hazel wants to leave because the drama is gone, and she just wants to fool around in the storage closet with her hot boy toy, and he is too self-conscious to tell her no. Because, see, Mr. Toy wants to stay. He wants to present his ideas of refurbishing the fisherman shacks as short-term rental properties, but once Hazel looks at him, his resolve is just gone. He tells himself that he's the type of guy to always take the easy way out, and that he could only be what other people think of him, and he feels kind of silly for wanting to do more. He just gets really down on himself right away. He's like, Hazel can only see him this way, I can really only see myself this way. And also, he feels silly for wanting to turn down this beautiful girl who he has, like, had feelings for the longest time, right? So they sneak away, and they go to the hand drive in the supply closet, and I am proud of my girl. Not proud of Noah for crumbling so easily when he has this dream he wants to follow through. We'll get there. But I am proud of Hazel, like, asking for what she wants and going and getting it. You know what I mean? She didn't have that confidence at the start of the book. She wants to go make out with her boy toy. She goes and makes out with her boy toy. Good for her. As we all should. In that closet, she confesses to him that she had found a clue. It said something about a brewery. I don't think I wrote down the clue, so sorry. But it said something about the brewery. And so Noah is like, oh, I know where a brewery is. And so there's a new brewery that is opening up the next town over. So they go out on a date, and she is convinced at this point that it is him. Because what do you mean I get a clue about a brewery of all things and you immediately know where to go? Which is, in fact, suspicious, I will say. But she keeps it to herself. And on this date, he ends up confessing his little business plan that he wants to talk to her dad about. Right? He takes her to the fisherman shack, the one that he made up by himself illegally, that one where he's just kind of squatting, pretending to be poor, that one. He takes her there and he confesses all of his plans of, like, what he wants to do, and she is over the moon proud of him. She feels really bad about pulling him away at the town meeting. And she's trying to talk to him about it, but he's so proud for finally confessing to her all these thoughts that he's had that he just grabs her and kisses her, and she's like, hold on. I'm trying to talk to you about something serious, and every time I try, you always just keep kissing me, and, like, you have to have serious conversations sometimes, right? So it leads to this tiff. And Noah ends up saying he's hurt that she pulls away, and he ends up saying, like, but isn't this what you want me for? Isn't this what you wanted me for my body, for me to show you a fun time? And which makes her call everything off, because that's not what she wanted. She didn't want to use him. She wanted them to have fun time together, because he's a fun guy, right? It was supposed to be fun for the both of them. A conversation, if you will. And if that's how he feels, hey, this isn't healthy anymore. They shouldn't do it. Good girl, Hazel. She gets out of there. He tells her no. He loves spending time with her. He loves doing this adventure with her. And he has to tell her multiple times because she doesn't believe him. She believed him when he blurted out that he felt used, which you should. And when he's trying to backpedal, she's like, hold on, there's something wrong here, right? We're not talking the way we should. And so they end it on a very timid note. She promises to reach out if there's a second clue. But after this, they don't really talk for a while. And in this break, Hazel has a breakthrough. Quote, the realization she had the night on... Quote, the realization she had the night of the town meeting rang even more true in the days after it. She didn't need a new life or to be a new person. She just needed to look at herself, at her life, in a new light. In the romantic glow of some dusty old Christmas trees, or the late afternoon light of an empty beach, or the blinking light of the Ferris wheel, Hazel was fun. And interesting. And maybe Noah had been by her side when she'd realized it, and maybe he brought it out of her, convinced her that she was desirable. But Hazel could hold on to all of that, even if she and Noah ended right now. Page 277. Yes. Yes, the quote does have that many ands. And yes, those are not complete sentences. I wasn't kidding when I said the grammar in this book made me want to vom. I wasn't kidding. But while she was having this realization, Kaori, the book club president and local lawyer, for who? Completely unknown, but she's like the local lawyer, brings up to the counter a book that she found where someone had highlighted something. It said, quote, "The ship cut through the waves, tossing Arabella's curls around her face. Salt spray misted her face, and the wind whipped around her skirts. She felt like she was flying." Which sounds like our girl has to go out on the open ocean. Luckily for our girl, she knows a very, very ambitious fisherman, right? Who is dying, by the way, because he left her alone for a week. He gave her space like she wanted. He didn't reach out to her. And so when she finally reaches out to him, oh, he's lost his mind. He never wants to leave her alone. He's a Velcro puppy. He's been suffering for a week. And he is stoked once he hears the clue because that's his domain. He takes her out on his boat called Ginger, and he makes all these plans to take her out, right? After he finishes the call with Hazel, he gets a call from his nieces. After those plans are made, he gets a call from his nieces begging him to come home for Thanksgiving once again, and while he is about to decline, he sees his big sister, his big fearless sister, Rachel, take the phone from them, and she is ragged. She looks exhausted because she's having a horrible pregnancy with her husband out on deployment, and she looks like she's not having a good time, right? And he is offering to come home to help her before he even realizes what he's doing. To which she's like, "I don't have time for your bullshit. I'm way too tired. I do not have time for you to promise these girls something, for you to promise me something and not pull through. And to not pull through. We're not doing it." And in that moment, he realized beforehand he wanted to come home successful, to have money to show off and to feel like he earned his place in the family. But at that point, he realized none of that matters. He just wants to be home for his sister to help her because she has always taken care of him. Now it's his turn, right? And he just desperately wants to come home. And I don't know if it's the holiday season or I'm just going to start my period, but this made me a little emotional, okay? It did. But we can't be emo for too long because our lovebirds have to go on a boat. Yeah, they go out on the ocean. Hazel brings 3 or 4 books for a short boat ride, which I think is very funny. But also, e-readers are for water activities. Just saying, get yourself an e-reader for boats, for the pool, for the beach. Don't do a book, all right? And I understand there's nothing like a smell or the feel of pages in a physical book. I understand. This is a third of my collection. Probably not even. It's probably like a fifth of all the books I own. But there's water involved. Stop it. You're gonna ruin them. And I will say, 2 books gets a pass. It's the one that she's currently reading, and then she also brings Noah the next book in the series that he's been waiting to come out, right? Very sweet, very thoughtful. Those 2 I understand. But the 3rd and the 4th, they don't need to be there. You're going for half a day. All right? Unnecessary. And I'm right to call this out because our birds, they got caught in a storm. And I was nervous about the books getting wet the entire time. I wish I was kidding. I was like, no, you had to have put them, underground. You had to have put them in the hull. What are you talking about? But I was just worried about her bag getting soaked. But Noah, he feels insanely guilty because he's been watching the storm all day and he promised her that nothing bad was going to happen. But at the last minute, as weather is known to do, it kind of gets blown in their direction way too fast. So he has to think quick and get them somewhere safe. He's anxious and internally screaming the entire time, and she's like, my man, oh, look at him, be good at things. She never doubts him that they're not safe. He ends up navigating to a small island off the coast with a small unused dock, which he's able to use to stabilize them to wait out the storm. And now, of course, this gets Hazel all hot under the collar. Why? Because talent is what? Sexy. Yes. Talent and competency is sexy. And so what do? Bang. Correct? 4 out of 5. I think it's 4 out of 5. Even though I couldn't super visualize, I could. I've spent some time on boats, so I could visualize it, but it kept changing in my head what the inside of this boat looks like, right? Because how is this boat this size, big enough for what they were doing? I had a hard time visualizing that, but that's not my job. All right. To me, the boat just got bigger, and that's fine. I'm no boat expert. After everything is said and done, they end up cuddling to read in a very picturesque cuddle puddle, even though the hull of the boat must smell so musty. But they're there, and even though the storm has passed, they just spend the afternoon cuddled up, reading books in Nice silence. And as she's getting ready to, like, confess her love to him about how she does want to give this a genuine try, he says, I'm leaving. And she's crushed. Rightfully so. And she's like, good for you. Glad you're going home. Awesome. Let's go home. The storm's done. And she decides to call an emergency council meeting with Jeannie, Annie, and Casper the cat, who's providing insightful information, if I may say so myself. But they weigh the pros and cons of Noah as a person, and as someone who's a part of and has led and has called many girly pop council meetings. I approve of this. Unfortunately, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, because they are able to successfully convince her that Noah's the one leaving all the clues and the breadcrumbs to do this grand finale love proclamation for her birthday, which we know is not true because we've seen his POV. And at this point, I have, like, officially crossed him off my list. And I realized I needed to put in my final vote for who was the mystery going to be, and the only people I could think of was the book club, but I didn't know why, you know? I couldn't think of a reason that didn't sound like they're trying to indoctrinate her into a cult. But that was my vote, was the book club. Now, as we come up on the climax of the book, at this point, I had started crying. For full transparency, I'm a crybaby, okay? So Noah goes to the library, and he's trying to get all the paperwork settled for the shacks. And he's having just such a hard time with it. He feels like such a screw up. He is doubting himself. He thinks this isn't a good idea anymore, and that he is destined to never be a better man. He can only be what he is in this moment right here, which is someone who's having a really, really hard time and who's really overstimulated. And I know I said it before, but Noah is very clearly undiagnosed ADHD with no coping skills. And I don't know if the author has personal experience with that, or if they know someone who has experience with that, but as someone who went most of their life undiagnosed ADHD with poor to mediocre coping skills as an adult, zero as a kid, I felt very seen in this moment and very called out. I also get very overwhelmed very easily. And while Noah is going through this mini crash out, he gets a call from his family. They call in order to settle bets whether or not he did actually say he was going to come home, because they'd only told his sister Rachel by this point. And his dad takes the phone specifically to tell him how proud he is and how excited he is to see him, and he is proud of his son for the life he has built for himself, right? And it's all very sweet, and I was bawling, okay? But cut back to Hazel. She's waiting in Mac's pub. As per the final clue, it just said Saturday 8 o'clock, pub something. She's wearing, like, a cute sexy dress, and the second Noah walks in, she's very excited. It's her, the girlies, sitting in a booth, and she's hyped about it. And she tells him that she figured it out, right? To which he's looking at her, sees the expectant look on her face, and realizes what she thinks happened. And before he can correct it, in comes everyone she has ever known in her entire life, led by her fathers and her mom and their dogs and her friends from the bookstore. It was her dad's. Yeah, no, it was her dad's. The two people I ruled out because I thought it was kind of weird. The explanation is that they wanted to do a scavenger hunt that led to a surprise party for her 30th birthday, which is sweet, and that the reason why it was in the romance books is because the only way he could pull it off was with the help of, one, the new employee that works there, but two, the romance book club. So they're the ones who picked out the books, right? So it makes it less weird, and he said it was all based on a dream he had. That's why he had this idea to do this. Okay. Sure, a little convoluted, kind of fun, but she feels horribly embarrassed about the entire thing. And she feels like it was this big inside joke that she was just not a part of, and she didn't figure it out, and she just feels out of place because of it. She feels like she made a fool of herself, basically. And while everyone is inside, partying, having a good time, drinking, dancing, she goes outside by herself to sit in the cold and just kind of breathe for a little bit. And who comes to find her except for Logan, her best friend. He comforts her. He tells her that there's nothing to be embarrassed about because there is no inside joke being had. It is just people in her life who love her and who want to celebrate her, which is very sweet. And I think it makes her feel better. Noah, on the other hand, never finds a moment to talk to her because he put the pieces together, realized, oh, I have to fix this. So he spends the entire night talking to her dad instead about the fisherman shacks, which personally would have pissed me the fuck off. We'll get there, okay? He talks to her dad all night and then dips out early. Which, by the way, the whole fisherman shack thing, it goes great. The mayor's like, that's such a great idea. We didn't know what to do with them. They're owned by the city. There's a lot of paperwork we have to deal with, but I love where your head's at, kid. You know? But the reason he leaves early is because he goes through all of his books and he stays up all night scouring through them and highlighting clues for Hazel, to which she comes into work the next day and on her desk is this giant pile of books that she knows are his that lead her through this like love proclamation. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I do think it's actually done pretty well. I think it's written well. So I'm not going to tell you what they say, but it ends with meet me by the water at 8. It's me this time, Noah. Which she does. She goes out to where they met up the first time. He showed her the shacks and he has covered them all in fairy lights and he is standing there unsure of really what to do with his hands as he waits for her and helps her down, the rocky cliffside. And he proclaims his love for her. Even though he thinks that he is not good enough, he says, I love you anyway. And she says, I'm going to need to stop doing that because here are all the ways that you have shown up for me and you've listened to me and you've cared for me as I am. These are all the things that you do that have proven to me that you're a good man. Shut up. You've cared about me in ways that I thought were impossible beforehand, which to him, it's all things that he never even thought of because for him, that's the bare minimum for how you care for someone. And to her, it was the world, right? And that made me fucking soft, and it still kind of makes me soft. They end up having a rough and tumble in the beach shack, and I'm bringing it up. I don't have to bring this up. It's like the end kiss, you know what I mean? Kiss. But I bring it up because to my surprise, she ends up crying in the middle of it. And it's supposed to be this insurmountable wave of, like, relief, but it felt a little flat for me, and I'm not sure why. The sentiment, I completely understand. The way it's written didn't feel truthful, unfortunately, which made this, like, fairly solid ending feel like it kind of pitters out, because I think this moment of relief is supposed to be the at the end of the story, and it didn't feel like it. It felt a little weird, which sucks because there are 2 chapters left, right? And those also feel like they kind of pitter out. So, chapter 30 is a few weeks later. It's Friendsgiving, and Noah, back in town, he has gone to help his sisters. He's back, and the lovebirds are fully together, and she had spent, like, Thanksgiving meeting his family. Now they're doing a Friendsgiving thing, and the only important part here is that Logan wants to propose to Jeannie. We've had hints that he, like, has a ring and it's been in his pocket the entire time of the story, right? But now it's like, he's gonna do it. So this is just the book reminding us, hey, if you forgot earlier, yeah, that is, like, about to happen. Either in the next book or in between, right? And then, the other thing that happens is Annie brings a guy named Trent, who we have never seen before, but she brings him to Friendsgiving. And instead of going with Mac, which all the characters assumed she was going to go with Mac or with no one, right? It's treated like this big dramatic reveal that, like, fuck Mac, okay? He doesn't deserve me. Which, the book treats it like we're supposed to know that they're sleeping together. All the book has told us outright is that they hate each other. And yes, it's supposed to be they hate each other so much because they want to bang. But we haven't seen any of that tension pay off, so what do you mean it's shocking that she didn't bring him? I thought we were still in the tension phase, you know what I mean? So that was weird. Like, she's teased about having a crush on him, but that's kind of it. But whatever. It just feels like very lukewarm tea, you know what I mean? It's weird. And then, chapter 31, which is the epilogue, it is 6 months later, and our lovebirds are on vacation in Aruba. Fun. And couple things. One, we find out Noah has a new tattoo on his chest. It's a heart with the letters HK plus NB on the inside, which for some reason, that is more egregious to me than them then getting eloped on the beach. And I know I can't say shit. I told my partner 3 weeks into this that I would marry him in a heartbeat, right? So I can't judge, but I'm judging anyway. Not the elopement, just the tattoo. It just, I don't know, him getting a tattoo feels more careless than them actually getting married, even though I know both technically are not permanent. You can get divorced, you can get a tattoo removed. I think it's because he didn't wait until after the elopement to get it. He got it beforehand. It made me a little suspicious. And also I think it's kind of tacky. Okay? You're a sailor. Get her portrait or something. Something tasteful. God. Anyway, that's it. We've made it to the end of the story, which is me judging the main characters. Which, I mean, that's really all we're here for, right? I want another pecan. Oh! Well, we're also here for the cinnamon bun, which came out delicious, so I think it was a job well done. We made it to the end of the story, end of our time together. I hope you had fun. I had a great time. I'm counting this as a win, even if things went so not to plan. It's ridiculous. Even then, I still had a good time. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more bookish or authorship videos, because I have more to come. Suggestions are always welcome, though. I do have a list the length of my arm, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to add to it. So please comment down below any thoughts you might have. If you've read this book, tell me what you think. What was your favorite moment? What do you rate it? Did you DNF it? Did you feel indifferent to it? Did I make you feel any different? Personally, I think my rating is, I'd say a 4 out of 5. I think this is a 4 out of 5, and I think the Pumpkin Spice Cafe is a 3.8 out of 5. I think it dropped it a little bit lower, because I like this one better, but it doesn't, I like this one better, but I don't think this one would score better, you know what I mean? So, bump. It is what it is. That's dynamic for you. It is what it is. But let me know what your rating is. Let me know, have you read these books? Am I the first introduction? I really hope so. Let me know anything, honestly. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and you're staying bundled up in these cold and trying times. And take care of yourself. Bye.